Chapter 131, Refining the Furnace. The stone covering his body changed into a stone shell that was completely sealed, with Feng Lin within. Feng Lin transformed into the heart monkey, guarding his body and resisting the heat of the lava. This was a unique ability of the stone monkey gene after it had been maxed out. This ability was known as stone-birth transformation. The price of this ability was becoming completely immobile, but when he was in this state, his defenses would be greatly strengthened to the max. The temperature of the lava could reach over 10,000 degrees. Those soldiers who had rushed in instantly became ashes, yet Feng Lin was still unharmed. This was the extreme defense provided by the stone-birth transformation. Ever since he confirmed that he had successfully refined the furnace, Feng Lin thought of this strategy. The soldiers of the Mars Revolutionary Army seemed endless, coming with waves after waves. Given the strength of him alone, it was very difficult for him to fight against them. Even if he could kill them, how long did he need to kill all of them? No matter how strong he was, in the end, he would simply die from exhaustion. Hence, Feng Lin might as well open up the furnace and lure them into the lava of the Mars's core, turning this place into a fiery hell, making it so that no one could enter. Only he could survive due to the stone-birth transformation ability. Hence now, Feng Lin transformed into a stone monkey that was still inside the stone shell as he floated among the lava. This place was filled with coarse flame, and the temperature was extremely high, capable of refining and tempering anything. The heat constantly tempered his body, and the stone shell turned more and more transparent, glowing with a glossy light. If he was just an ordinary stone before this, now that all impurities had gradually been removed, the stone shell now resembled a pure and flawless piece of beautiful jade. Although the stone monkey gene had been strengthened to the max, this didn't represent that all his abilities had been maxed out. Adding points to the strengthening tally of a gene was equivalent to improving one's talent. When one's talent reached the limit, in order to continue and grow in strength, they had to undergo continuous practices for their abilities to grow stronger and stronger, seemingly without end. When Sun Wukong was born, he was already a spiritual stone monkey, but his strength wasn't something he gained innately. It was just because his talent was good and his intelligence far surpassed his same species, which led to him ultimately gaining such immense strength. At the start, he was merely a weak little stone monkey. Later on, Sun Wukong traversed the 4 oceans and experienced many kinds of suffering before he managed to take Patriarch Subhuti as his master. From there, he learned many heaven-shaking abilities, and he eventually became the great sage equal to heavens. Hence, strengthening one's gene would only allow your talent to be maximized. As to how you would use that talent to increase your potential and develop your strength, that would be up to yourself. There were many different methods of cultivation, hence, there would be differences. For example, for the ice gene, many people would use this gene to form icicles from the water vapor in the air to kill their enemies. There were also some who directly employed the power to freeze their enemies or use cold qi to kill. Feng Lin's toughness started to change under the refinement of the fire in the planet's core. Vast amounts of impurities continued to be forced out, and the instant they appeared, they were evaporated into nothingness by the high temperature. The accumulated nutrients in his body also rapidly decreased as his body began to shrink from his original 1.98 meters to 1.90 meters, and all the way to 1.78 meters. However, this didn't mean that Feng Lin had weakened. On the contrary, his body was purified and he became stronger than before. If in the past, his body was said to be forged from steel, right now, his body of steel had transformed into the strongest alloy. His body structure gradually transformed as his bones turned as white as jade, emitting a faint golden luster. And his muscles were like corded steel wires, extremely resilient. Feng Lin suddenly had an epiphany. The path of cultivation was endless. One must move forward or would fall behind. All his encounters turned into valuable experiences as he engraved them in his mind, unable to forget even after a long time. The lava here flowed backward, incinerating everything inside the furnace. The Titan's body, Frank's body, all turned into ashes, no longer existing. No matter how strong they had been when they were alive, no matter how high their status was, everything returned to nothingness. It felt like an impressive bout of fire burned everything cleanly in the mortal world. For a period of time, everything was burning. Feng Lin was the only thing that remained as he curled up safely inside the stone shell. At the same time while his body was being tempered, he also silently formed gestures, controlling his mental energy to continue taming the furnace as he branded his own mental imprint in the furnace's core, creating a formless connection between them. As the mental imprint sank in deeper, the connection grew increasingly tighter. The furnace felt like it was a part of his body. Feng Lin felt that as long as he willed it, he would be able to control the furnace's movements effortlessly. But at this moment, a loud voice suddenly rang out. Is this the mythological site the giant pharmaceutical company discovered? There's still a remaining vile spawn from the giant pharmaceutical company. We must capture him for sure. What? The first batch of people who entered have all been burned to ashes? Numerous exclamations of shock rang out from the space above the furnace. Clearly, the situation here had already been discovered, and more soldiers were drawn here. He controlled the furnace to shake violently, completely severing the passageway that led into this space. The furnace's top was completely shut off with a huge bang. The soldiers screamed as they suddenly fell straight into the lava. By doing so, the space inside the furnace was now completely isolated from the outside world. He could temporarily stabilize and put in all his effort in refining the furnace, not being disturbed by anyone. Unless the Mars Revolutionary Army had the technology to enter deep inside the core, it was impossible for them to do anything to him. But even so, in order to guard against future troubles, Feng Lin began to exert all his efforts to refine the furnace. Now that Mars was in the midst of internal warfare, everywhere on the planet was in chaos. It wasn't suitable for him to stay too long here. It would be for the best if he could leave this place as soon as possible. A silver light shone from the center of Feng Lin's brows. His mental energy gushed forth in full strength, instantly channeled into the furnace. This furnace was as expected an ancient wondrous treasure left behind by the Furnace Immortal sect. There was actually an interior space within it, and it contained all kinds of secrets. When Feng Lin's mental energy entered the furnace, it felt like it was entering a bottomless hole. No matter how deep he probed, he wasn't able to reach the very end. He could feel a mysterious energy hidden in the depths, but as of now, his capabilities were still far from enough to discover anything about it. He still failed after several attempts and could only give up for now, leaving behind a mere mental imprint. In this case, his refinement of the furnace could only be considered to be at the initial stage. He still wasn't able to gain complete control of the furnace yet. But this was already sufficient. After all, an interstellar cultivator's cultivation base was simply too low. It was far from enough to completely control a treasure like this. Reaching this step was already Feng Lin's current limit. Feng Lin didn't feel too much regret. He silently mused that it was about time to leave. The planet's core was in the center of Mars. If he stayed too long here, he would be like a turtle trapped in a jar, and he wouldn't be able to leave even if he wanted to. According to what Frank had said earlier, there should be a secret passage here in the core, leading to the tallest volcano on Mars. The tallest volcano was named Mount Olympus, and it was over 20,000 meters tall. He should be able to travel through the core, to the volcano, climbing out of the crater to reach Mars's surface. According to this information he had learned from Frank earlier, Feng Lin started to control the furnace, moving it across the core's lava. If the lava of Mars's core was like an ocean, this furnace would become his submarine. With just his will, Feng Lin was able to easily control the movements of the furnace. It was truly extremely mystical. Very soon, he arrived at the location Frank had mentioned. The inner space of the core had countless tunnels. Right now, at this moment, the furnace stopped before a giant tunnel where the lava was flowing into it. It was like an underground river of lava, which led to an unknown location. Chapter 132, Leaving Mars. This should be the place. The tunnel was extremely deep. It was unknown where it would lead to. After repeatedly confirming that there were no mistakes, Feng Lin used the furnace as a boat as he entered the tunnel. The hot lava churned around him. They were like surging waves of a sea that generated a current to push the furnace forward. Quickly look, the alloy sphere is fleeing away. Not good, all the secrets of the ancient mythological ruins are in there. Mars is so big, quickly lock on the sphere's coordinates for me. The soldiers of the Mars Revolutionary Army that were just arrived all screamed in exasperation while Feng Lin had already traveled far away by controlling the furnace. The furnace was used as a boat, the lava was treated like the ocean. The underground tunnel twisted left and right, extremely winding and complicated. However, the furnace simply barged through the tunnel, shattering the stone pillars that obstructed its way. Its speed grew increasingly faster as it headed toward Mars's surface. Feng Lin actually felt a sense of excitement as though he was surfing the ocean waves. The furnace's movement speed was incredibly fast. It was unknown how long he had been traveling, but Feng Lin faintly sensed that Mars's surface was already very close to him. Eventually, light appeared before him. Flames erupted as the lava churned, generating black-colored mushroom-shaped clouds. An alchemy furnace flew high into the air from the force of the eruption, with lava and smoke spewing everywhere. After the momentum of the burst dissipated, it rapidly fell down from the air. Its incredible speed created friction in the atmosphere as numerous sparks manifested. It was like a fiery meteor falling from the sky. Boom! With a thunderous explosion, smoke and dust sprang up everywhere. At the foot of the volcano, a giant crater was created from the impact as large amounts of sand and dirt blasted outward. It was after a long time that a face covered by dirt and grime climbed out from there. Falling down from a height of 20,000 meters, even Feng Lin wouldn't be able to withstand it with his body. He felt extremely dizzy, and it was only after a long time did he recover. He turned his head back only to see a volcano that resembled a heavenly pillar. This volcano was incomparably majestic and exuded an aura that could stir one's heart and soul. This was the tallest volcano of Mars, named the Olympus Mountain. It was at the very least 20,000 meters in height, twice as tall as Mount Everest on Earth. But no matter who it was, no one would be able to imagine that there was a tunnel leading to an underground hidden there. However, Mars was only this large. It was roughly only about 1/9 of Earth's size. Given the technology of the current age, everything would be quickly revealed via an electronic scan. He had to leave as soon as possible. If not, when the Mars Revolutionary Army arrived here, it would be extremely difficult for him to escape. Retract. Feng Lin glanced at his furnace and stretched out his hand to take it. His formless mental energy surged into the mental imprint, causing the furnace to tremble violently and actually shrink in size. Instantly, the furnace that was originally as large as a mountain became the size of an incense pot. It then reduced even further in size and transformed into a beam of light that returned to Feng Lin's hand. Upon contact with his hand, it transformed into a furnace tattoo that gradually faded out. However, with just an intention, Feng Lin could clearly sense the furnace in his hand. The furnace had already fused with him, and he was silently marveling at this fact. As expected of a wondrous treasure from the ancient myths and legends, it could actually fuse together with the human body, possessing unimaginable abilities. However, as to what the furnace's abilities were exactly, he still had to slowly figure them out in the future. Collapsible flying shuttle, activate. Feng Lin touched the ring on his finger as he commanded in a low voice. The ring glowed, becoming brighter and brighter. All of a sudden, a beam of light shot forth. The space twisted, parting like mist as a silver flying shuttle appeared before his eyes. This flying shuttle was about 1,000 meters in length. It had a streamlined body shape and was filled with a technological sense of beauty. "Welcome, Captain. The Holy Determination flying shuttle is prepared. We can take off any time." A female voice rang out. This was the AI of the flying shuttle. The flying shuttle's AI was one of the most advanced AI. It had autopilot mode on, and the vast majority of complex situations in the universe could be resolved easily. Even though Feng Lin was only one person, he could still easily operate the flying shuttle. "It's time to return to Earth." Feng Lin silently mused that it had been quite a long time since he had come to Mars, and he had experienced far too many things. This gave him a feeling as though it had been a lifetime then since he was last on Earth. It was about time to go back. He didn't forget that there were still some troublesome matters regarding his clan. He didn't know how the head butler would view the current him. Would he still maintain the lofty attitude he had from before? A cold smile lit up Feng Lin's lips, but an incomparable yearning involuntarily appeared in his heart. As he walked closer, the cabin door automatically opened and he entered. Very swiftly, fiery light rays shot out from behind the flying shuttle as an immense reactive force pushed it up to the starry space. It swiftly transformed into a silver line and vanished quickly into the horizon. Not too long after Feng Lin left, 3 flying shuttles neared the area he had previously been in. A bunch of soldiers wearing the Mars Revolutionary Army's uniform completely surrounded the area. "There are traces of a flying shuttle here. It's very possible that it is from the vile creature of the giant pharmaceutical company. We have to find him. It's better to kill mistakenly than to allow a suspicious target to escape." That's right, he might have the secrets of the mythological ruin on him. Those secrets are the true treasures of the giant pharmaceutical company. We have to get them no matter the cost. At this moment, when those soldiers from the Mars Revolutionary Army were frantically searching for Feng Lin, a flying shuttle had already broken through Mars's atmosphere and was rapidly flying toward the distance, toward an azure blue planet. Through the glass windshield inside the operator's cabin, Feng Lin could see that Mars, a fiery red planet, was rapidly becoming smaller, gradually turning into a tiny red dot. Feng Lin's heart was filled with emotions, as well as unrestrained joy. For this journey to Mars, although there were many pitfalls and obstacles as he encountered dangers after dangers, his returns were also great. He didn't suffer any disadvantage at all. The Kunlun Grand Palm imprint, alchemy arts, mythological ruins. Each was more valuable than the last. Even if he took his returns out one by one, each of them was enough to drive other cultivators mad with envy. And now, Feng Lin possessed them all. Martial arts, secret techniques, good fortune. I want them all. With no investments, how would there be returns? The greater the risk, the greater the rewards. He had taken many huge risks, but in exchange, he had also received incomparably generous returns. From this, one could very well imagine how much time he had to spend on his path of cultivation in the future. Maybe in the future after he matured, these benefits now would already be insignificant. But Feng Lin was clear that this experience would be buried deep within his heart. This was after all a transformation for him, a budding young cultivator, walking on the path of growing stronger. This could be considered a growing-up experience. And because he had really matured from this experience was truly valuable. Feng Lin sighed with relief. His earlier tense body was now completely relaxed as he leaned against the back of a chair. Before this, his heartstrings were stretched too taut. Now, he could finally temporarily relax. He drew a deep breath. This wasn't for the breathing techniques taught in cultivation. He was just drawing a deep breath to relax. Feng Lin turned his head back for a final look at Mars. Now, in his vision, Mars had already become a faint red, shimmering in his eyes. Goodbye, Mars. He no longer looked back. His eyes glowed with a bright light as he stared at the azure planet ahead in the distance. Earth, I'm back. The flying shuttle left a fiery and resplendent trail through the dark starry skies, as it shot forth into the distance. A human, a flying shuttle, it was like a man who had left his home for a long time finally returning. Feng Lin continued to fly forward with anticipation and excitement in his heart. Chapter 133, Interstellar Technology. The flying shuttle emitted fiery rays, transformed into a silver line as it rapidly soared through the blackness of space. It was heading toward the azure blue planet at its maximum speed. The speed of this flying shuttle was extremely fast. It only needed 2 to 3 hours to reach Earth from Mars. Compared to the Harley 989 passenger space shuttle which Feng Lin took to Mars, the flying shuttle was faster by more than 2 times. Also, the shuttle was extremely stable, there was no sense of discomfort at all. Feng Lin sat on the operator seat and silently marveled at the technology of the interstellar era. The more developed science and technology were, the more it wouldn't lose out to extraordinary abilities of humans. This was a kind of technique that allowed one to touch the laws of the universe through external objects. Although science and technology couldn't change the base of humans, it wouldn't be restricted by one's innate talent. As long as one accumulated lots of resources and developed science and technology far enough, their might could also shake the heaven and earth. There were no limits to one's power. Humanity of the interstellar era had already reached an unprecedented peak in terms of science and technology, and caused countless scientific marvels to be born. But sadly, the solar system was only considered a backward chaotic star region. The truly pinnacle technologies were all only found in supreme interstellar empires. Feng Lin only heard of this before but had never seen them before. Some examples were black hole cannons, dimensional guided missiles, vacuum wave arrays. This flying shuttle was considered a product of extremely advanced technology. It shouldn't be something the solar system had. There were still 2 more hours before he reached Earth. Feng Lin started to survey the flying shuttle, wanting to discover more information. This flying shuttle was the last trump card of the giant pharmaceutical company, and it contained all the remaining foundation of the company. The essence of the giant pharmaceutical company's technology and property should be within. This was simply a huge treasure trove. And now, all of these belonged to Feng Lin. As the owner, shouldn't he tabulate his total wealth? Hence, it was with a heart filled with joy that Feng Lin began to wander around the interior area of the flying shuttle, staring left and right. He was like a bumpkin who just went to a city. Everything felt extremely interesting and new to him. Although his usual temperament was one of calm and collected, he now felt slightly dizzy from this huge collection of treasure. I want all the information of this flying shuttle, Feng Lin spoke. Zzz. A light wave cascaded down before his eyes, transforming into a virtual human silhouette that seemed akin to reality. The virtual silhouette then stood before Feng Lin. This silhouette belonged to an enchanting-looking young girl with ample bosom and rear. Her figure was in the shape of S and was exceedingly mesmerizing. Her perfect figure was in accordance with the golden ratio. The bridge of her nose was erect as the depth of her eyes felt like a deep pool of water. She was like Venus, the goddess of beauty from Greek mythology, descending to the mortal world. The only defect about her beauty was that this virtual silhouette projection was actually in the form of a blonde-haired azure-eyed girl. The AI evidently detected Feng Lin's dissatisfied expression and started to make adjustments. Currently adjusting the virtual projection based on Captain's request. The blonde-haired azure-eyed girl instantly became an oriental beauty with black hair and eyes. Her eyes were like limpid water, and her face had a quiet softness to it. She was clad in purple-colored Chinese attire and had the graceful and mysterious feel of an oriental girl. Feng Lin nodded. He couldn't help but agree that the projection looked much better now. Upon sensing Feng Lin's satisfaction, the oriental beauty smiled. The Holy Determination AI Anna is here to service you. Feng Lin frowned. This was clearly an oriental beauty, yet her name was Anna. It didn't seem to match. Is it possible to change your name? I want to change both the name of the flying shuttle and your name. What holy determination, what Anna? Since this is my flying shuttle now, how can we use Western names? His words were extremely domineering. Your wish is my command. The AI beauty had a human-like smile. Please give me your orders. As expected of a flying shuttle that was considered extremely rare. The sentience of the AI was truly high enough, not worse than that of a human. Feng Lin marveled silently, and all of a sudden, his eyes flashed with light. Since he wanted to walk on Sun Wukong's path, in the future, this flying shuttle would be his base of operations. In that case, why didn't he name this the Flower Fruit Mountain? From today onward, this flying shuttle will be named the Flower Fruit Mountain. Feng Lin repeated the name in confirmation. Confirming Captain's order. The Holy Determination Flying Shuttle shall be renamed to the Flower Fruit Mountain Flying Shuttle. Name change is successful. The Oriental beauty smiled. Awaiting for the name change of the AI system. Your name shall be Zixia. Feng Lin didn't waste too much time as he casually spoke. Name change successful. Captain Feng Lin, Zixia, AI of the Flower Fruit Mountain Flying Shuttle, is here at your service. The Oriental beauty had a smile on her face, akin to a real human. Machim. Feng Lin nodded as he calmly instructed, bring me to take a look at the shuttle's structure and arrangements. Captain, please come with me. The AI beauty started leading the way into the depths of the flying shuttle, introducing the surroundings as she walked. The interior of the flying shuttle was very large. It was separated into many layers and compartments. There was a laboratory, a cultivation room, a resting zone, there was everything here. The conditions were truly luxurious and felt very comfortable. And in the equipment zone, Feng Lin actually saw all sorts of guns, grenades, cannons, and bullets. They came in all sorts of models. Feng Lin also wasn't familiar with them. Clearly, these weapons were considered elite weapons of supreme interstellar empires and weren't the inferior weapons in the solar system. In fact, he even saw 3 mechas with the size of a grown human. They were made from alloys and radiated with the elegance of science and technology. Assemble. Feng Lin pressed down on the activation button. These mechas all emitted steam and flew toward Feng Lin as they rapidly assembled themselves. A few moments later, 3 machinery resembling Iron Man appeared. Feng Lin stepped forward, studying them with interest. A mecha was considered an extremely rare object. This was the first time he was using it. He started to test the function of the mecha. His fingers rapped on the alloy shell, and he suddenly exerted a bit of his strength forth. Creaking sounds instantly rang out. The sounds of metal exceeding its weight limit echoed out as a clear fingerprint could be seen. Things got awkward then. Feng Lin quietly retracted his hands, feeling speechless in his heart. How fragile. Are mechas not made from extremely tough alloys? Why would the mecha suit break, despite me not exerting any powerful force at all? Fenglin felt extremely depressed. This was the first time he was wearing a mecha suit, but he discovered that the toughness of the mecha suit was inferior to him. So, there were naturally also different grades for mechas. These mechas were at most low martial graded machines. To other interstellar cultivators, they might be useful. But to Fenglin, they weren't of much use at all. The mechas weren't even tougher than his flesh. If he were to wear them, it would just be putting on a layer of alloy that would be completely useless. Its weight might even become a burden instead. To his astonishment, Fenglin discovered that without realizing it, his current cultivation base was already considered very high. Those cultivation resources, which others considered extremely valuable, was already of no effect to him. I'm simply too powerful. Fenglin silently praised himself. He was gaining strength so quickly that maybe, soon, he wouldn't even be able to recognize himself. That young man, who had fled from his clan's exploitation, had unknowingly vanished, replaced by a matured man. Fenglin suppressed the melancholy he felt and continued skimming over the items inside the flying shuttle. There were all sorts of items here, from plant seeds to fertilized animals' ovum. There were all sorts of bizarre things. In the system, there were also many records of scientific knowledge. These were all basic-level scientific knowledge. Fenglin even found information on how to survive in the wild. What is this? Teaching people how to be Bear Grylls? Even Bear Grylls wouldn't be able to survive on a desolate planet, right? Fenglin had a strange look on his face. What was all this knowledge for? After that, he came to the warehouse of the flying shuttle. In there, he actually saw over 10,000 of sphere-shaped robots stacked together with markings on them. Hercules 198 model robotic worker. Fenglin seemed to have thought of something. He surveyed the flower-fruit mountain flying shuttle in shock. Could this be a colonial flying shuttle? Chapter 134, Father of the Virtual Universe. Ever since humanity expanded through the stars, their steps had never stopped. They were like locusts spreading through the Milky Way galaxy incessantly, exploring further and further. Every place they arrived at, as long as a planet had an abundance of resources, humanity would soon begin to take root there and colonize that planet. What happens if there are already aboriginals residing on the planet? Hee hee. What do you think? Is there even a need to ask this question? Interstellar humans seemed magnificent in their glory, appearing extremely prosperous. But in truth, behind the glory, everything was covered in fresh blood. The more prosperous and magnificent they appeared to be, the crueler and callous were the deeds they had done in the back. The cruel law of the jungle in the universe resulted in bloody battles between different races. For the sake of territories and living space, the weak would be eaten by the strong. Just like the overlord of Earth in ancient era. Didn't the United States of America brutally murder the Indians at the start to gain the precious lands? A seemingly civilized race could be incomparably cruel once there were conflicts. They might be even more brutal than wild beasts. After all, a wild beast whose hunger was assuaged wouldn't hunt any other animals. Boxnovel.com. But for intelligent creatures like humans, they would always be a potential threat. Once there were benefits to be gained, they might even massacre entire species regardless of whether they were enemies or not. And when humanity colonized other planets, the tool they used most often would be a colonial flying shuttle. A colonial flying shuttle was also known as a Foundation-base flying shuttle. This kind of flying shuttle was much more valuable compared to normal flying shuttles. They could travel at light speed and pass through wormholes to traverse astronomical distances. Once the flying shuttle landed on a planet, it would automatically switch over to Foundation Base mode, laying foundations suitable for human life and setting roots in the new planet. Every colonial flying shuttle contained all kinds of knowledge regarding science and technology of humankind. Also, an internal ecological cycle system could also be formed spontaneously. When humans entered a new planet, once they decided to colonize it, they could control the AI of the flying shuttle to use robots to harvest the natural resources and produce various goods and supplies. They could then swiftly build a base of operations where humans could reside in. After that, the AI would use the energy source to purify the water and soil and start to sow the plant seeds they had preserved in the flying shuttle, even reproducing animals using the fertilized ovums. If this continued, it would be inevitable for the base of humanity to expand further and further gradually as they transformed nature, turning the entire planet into one fit for humanity to reside in. Every colonial flying shuttle was considered the pinnacle of humanity's science and technology. They had a diverse range of functions. Just with possessing such a flying shuttle, no matter how vast the universe was, one could go anywhere they wanted to. It was completely self-sufficient. No wonder the people from the giant pharmaceutical company was so confident that they could rise up again once they left Mars. So they had this ultimate move in their hands. Feng Lin nodded, feeling joy and surprise in his heart. Compared to common flying shuttles, a colonial flying shuttle was much, much higher in value. It could even be said that there were demands for it, but no one was willing to sell it. Feng Lin also didn't expect that he would gain such a benefit. With the Flower Fruit Mountain, he had no worries no matter where he wanted to go in space. He could even survive in the vast universe alone with no restrictions. His degree of freedom would increase greatly. Feng Lin was like an emperor surveying his territory. Under the guidance from the Beauty AI, he took a quick tour inside the flying shuttle. After browsing for a round, he was finally satisfied. He felt the joy of a pauper suddenly becoming a parvenu. Everyone would hate a parvenu. But who would reject becoming one? Although Feng Lin's personality was considered calm, he was also still a human. At this moment, he couldn't help but feel happy. Zixia, are there only these? The flying shuttle was so big, and there might be some details that were left out. Hence, he asked this question. All corporeal objects have been inspected. There is still a virtual item. Zixia replied. Virtual item? Feng Lin's heart stirred. Bring me there. Please come with me. AI Zixia smiled and led the way, bringing Feng Lin to a completely sealed game cabin as she introduced, Captain, please enter the virtual universe from here. After doing so, you would be able to gain the control rights which the giant pharmaceutical company possessed in the virtual universe. For example, you will gain control of the virtual planet they owned. Virtual planet? Feng Lin felt emotionally moved. Although in the real universe, the vast majority of human territories were occupied by the supreme interstellar empires, the second universe, which was the virtual universe, was an exception. 3,000 years ago, the father of the virtual universe, Caesar Li, was unhappy with the fact that the various supreme interstellar empires had occupied the vast majority of human territories, not leaving any free land for humankind. His ambition was to build a second universe where everyone was equal. No one would have to be pressured by a higher authority of high-handed governments. One would have absolute freedom in there. As long as anyone was willing to work hard, they would be able to find their lives there, which contained limitless possibilities. Finally, after spending 100 years of time, he finally managed to build an AI server that was not controlled by the supreme interstellar empires, managing to create the virtual universe that linked the entire interstellar space. Anyone could easily enter there, and their identities would be kept top secret, putting an end to all snooping by the official governments. The currency used there was star coins, the same as reality. Once the virtual universe was created, it instantly caused a gigantic commotion among humanity and spread like an epidemic through the whole universe. Every virtual planet was considered a unique virtual world. Movies, games, animations, there were all sorts of elements being put together. Everything humans had ever imagined was transformed into a virtual truth through digital data. Anyone could enter casually and enjoy life to the max. A unique worldview without restrictions contained countless possibilities. The virtual universe became the second world for humanity. But because the creation of the virtual universe had exhausted too much of Caesar Lee's energy, his cultivation was delayed and he died after living to 300+ years. Ultimately, he was stuck at the interstellar cultivator realm. However, in order to commemorate and thank him for his great contribution, humanity decided to refer to him as the father of the virtual universe from then on, carving his name into the interstellar age's history. For a certain perspective, this could also be considered eternal glory of a certain degree. What was peculiar was that after the father of the virtual universe, Caesar Lee, passed away, given how vast the universe was, no one could find out where the virtual universe's server was located. Seeing that the server was able to project its signal through interstellar space without regard for distance, it should definitely be an incomparably wondrous treasure. If someone could obtain that, it would mean that they would be able to control the entire virtual universe, the second lives of countless humans. Sadly, this huge project of creating the virtual universe was accomplished by Caesar Lee alone. After his death, the secret of the virtual universe's location had completely become an unsolvable mystery. The virtual universe was still in operation. Countless people expended lots of time and effort in order to search for that obscure location of the server, but none had found it. And it was precisely because the virtual universe had absolute secrecy and freedom, the formless territories in the virtual universe also became a type of valuable virtual assets. A virtual asset as large as a planet was of inestimable value. In fact, it might be even more valuable compared to a planet in reality. The interstellar space was far too vast. The majority of planets in there were dead planets containing only useless stones and rocks. They were not valuable at all. Only an extremely few, maybe about 1% of the planets, were considered life planets. Not only life planets, but mineral planets containing natural resources were also considered to be of astronomical value. And the virtual universe was able to change according to the user's will, becoming a virtual world, containing countless possibilities. It was truly extremely mystical. He didn't expect that the giant pharmaceutical company actually left a virtual planet behind. To Feng Lin, this was truly a pleasant surprise. For some reason, he thought of the gigantic virtual planet he had seen when he had had a virtual interview with the giant pharmaceutical company. Feng Lin's heart stirred. Controlling a planet, didn't that mean that he could build a power that belonged to him alone in the virtual universe? Mythological Genes Association. Chapter 135, Mythological Genes Association. The virtual universe had unlimited freedom. There were only things that hadn't been imagined yet. Anything was possible. As the second world for humans, the virtual universe could ignore the actual physical distance and allow humans to interact face-to-face with each other with no delay. Things were extremely convenient. The most important thing was that one's identity would be kept an absolute secret and no one would be able to pry into it. This gave everyone a sense of safety and security. Although its original base was virtual in nature, to humans, this could already be considered a real world of sorts. This was a completely free world belonging to all interstellar humans. The major countries, minor countries, businesses, secret powers, all of them would build a virtual territory for themselves in the virtual universe. Hence, virtual territories were extremely valuable. One could either obtain world creation treasures in the virtual universe and start creating a world from scratch, or they could seek out the virtual universe's auto AI and spend astronomical amounts of star coins to purchase one. Feng Lin didn't expect that he would be able to obtain an ownerless virtual planet. Since this was the case, he might as well use this virtual planet to build an independent power belonging to him. He had already thought of the name, the Mythological Genes Association. This would be a secret power that was primarily used to exchange knowledge regarding mythological genes. One couldn't help but say that since Feng Lin knew the myths and legends of almost every ancient cultivation, he undoubtedly possessed an immense advantage on his cultivation path. However, he knew a little too much. After all, he was just a single person and could only pick a single or just a few mythological paths. It was impossible for him to tread on all the mythological paths he knew. Quality was the essence, not quantity. Feng Lin only needed to pick the few mythological paths with the brightest future, and his potential would have no limit. One must know that the pathway of cultivation was a road that only led forward. The journey of life was simply an unending race against time. If one wasn't able to break through to a higher cultivation base before their lives reached the limit, they would simply die. Cultivators had to continuously break through to extend their lives. No matter how high your current cultivation base was and how strong you were, after you died, you would return to being part of the earth. There was no meaning in that, at all. Humans' energy was limited. Right now, just treading on the mythological path of the Monkey King, Sun Wukong, already made it so that Feng Lin couldn't be distracted. Although he knew of other mythological paths, it was impossible for him to use them, and it would be a waste to keep them with him. Why didn't he use this knowledge to exchange for cultivation resources? For those extremely powerful mythological pathways, he naturally would keep them a secret. But for those that weren't that important, Feng Lin didn't mind trading them away, and he wouldn't be worried that by selling such knowledge, the knowledge would come back to bite him one day. The 4 critical points needed for cultivation was wealth, companion, laws, and location. One needed a vast amount of resources to cultivate. The higher one's cultivation was, the more astronomical the amount of resources needed. The interstellar space was boundlessly vast, and the human population had long reached tens of trillions in number. Although interstellar cultivators were rare, in perspective of the human population, there were simply too many of them to count. The competition for resources was extremely fierce, resulting in great pressure. Everyone was competing against each other to gain more of the universe's resources. Hence, a cultivator had to display his greatest advantage before he would be different from the others and obtain an unending flow of resources. After the journey to Mars, although Feng Lin had obtained a large amount of cultivation resources, he was very clear that this was only temporary. These resources were able to allow him to cultivate regularly, but that was the only thing they could do. When his cultivation base reached a profound state, the amount of money he would spend would be like flowing water. These resources would soon dry up. If a human had no long-term considerations, they would definitely bound to experience failures in the near future. If one asked the question, what was the most expensive thing in the interstellar age? The answer was obvious. There was a saying that knowledge is priceless. Hence, Feng Lin decided to make use of his advantage. He planned to earn resources by displaying his proficiency of mythological knowledge and genetic processes to correct those who had the wrong idea about genetic cultivation. In the real world, there were too many people with loose lips. If he sold his knowledge of mythological genes simply like that, it would be too conspicuous. The interstellar space was so vast, and there were all sorts of bizarre methods and abilities. No matter how careful he tried to conceal things, it was possible that others might notice it. This was not secure at all. Even if he peddled his knowledge through the web, his web's IP address would also be tracked by hackers. But there was no such danger in the virtual universe. The secrecy of humans who used it was absolutely secure. In there, everyone could casually mask their true identities. No one would be able to tell or spy upon you. Hence, Feng Lin wanted to build a secret power that belonged to him alone in the virtual universe. By doing so, not only could he protect his greatest secret, but he was also able to make public and peddle some of his mythological knowledge to others and gain huge amounts of cultivation resources in exchange. This would be killing many birds with a single stone. As he was thinking of this, he connected mentally to the virtual cabin in the flying shuttle. The familiar data flows akin to waterfalls appeared before him. At the next instant, he had already arrived inside the virtual universe. The familiar starry space was all around him, and every cluster of nebula represented an independent world. Below Feng Lin, there actually was a gigantic planet floating in the darkness. It revolved continuously, and there was some information labeled below it, Giant Pharmaceutical Company. As he slowly moved nearer, the clouds surrounding the planet naturally parted, opening up a pathway. As Frank died, this virtual planet became a completely ownerless land. Now, it all belonged to Feng Lin. Feng Lin set foot on the planet and discovered that there were various rare and precious herbs grown all around here. The fragrance they exuded was so thick that fog was formed, on the verge of condensing into substance. Clearly, these herbs were all extremely valuable. The giant pharmaceutical company had transformed the planet like this. Clearly, they had wanted to use the virtual universe's simulation ability to simulate experiments with different medical substances to improve the genetic potions. Feng Lin's heart stirred. A ball of light floated in his hand. This was evidently the model of Giant Planet. From within the virtual cabin, he logged in and gained the authorization of the control hub. The data about Giant Planet was then shown to him. Name, Giant Planet. Grade, Virtual. Perfection Index, 100%. Star Coins, 1,202,638. Virtual Grade? Feng Lin silently felt bewildered. Could it be that this grading could be further upgraded? Was there an even higher graded virtual territory? He did a quick search and soon found the relevant information. So it turned out that territories in the virtual universe could be classified into different grades as well. The lowest grade was Virtual Grade. After that, there were the Minor 1000, Medium 1000, and Major 1000 World Grade. The latter three grades were all known as World Grades because they had completely independent world laws. For example, the alternating period between the sun and the moon, the movements of the stars, etc. It was a completely independent world. Some examples were World of Warcraft, Naruto World, Avatar World that existed in the virtual universe. All of them were considered Minor 1000 graded worlds. Feng Lin discovered that the perfection index for Giant Planet had already reached 100%. He only needed to spend star coins, and he would be able to upgrade Giant Planet to a Minor 1000 graded world. In that case, what was he waiting for? Feng Lin decisively upgraded it, and the number of star coins in the virtual universe's bank instantly depleted by over 200,000 coins. The giant planet before his eyes instantly expanded. The space in the surroundings transformed into a region of primal chaos with no end and beginning. Feng Lin stood there, but he wasn't affected by the chaos chi at all. He was like a god or devil that was born when the heavens and earth were created. The chaos churned wildly, transforming into a gigantic vortex, seemingly nurturing the seed of a brand new world. In that case, all that remained was to split it open to create the heavens and earth.